What's going on, Betsperters? We are back for another week of DFS Betspert Golf Breaking Downness, and I have got yet another wonderful guest that I've yet to have on the show with me, and his name is Andy Molitor. How the hell are you, brother?
Good. I was just regaling Byron with tales of how good I've done in DFS this year. It's been limited play because I am awful busy, but with fewer and fewer football games every week, I said, you know what? I'm going to get into more DFS this week. And then I got smacked in the face with, oh, yeah, hey, buddy. Yeah, if you want to do that, you better find some time right now because tournament starts a day early.
Yeah.
They do this. I mean, how many years have they been doing this? And it still just sneaks up on me.
1 year is not long enough to remember this kind of stuff. It's for people like you and I. We need everyone else around us to take care of us. Otherwise we'll show up on a Wednesday night and try and build some lineups and it's just not available. So if you haven't already paid attention to that, we are starting golf tomorrow, folks. So that's a news flash, but it's the Farmers Insurance Open, Andy. Do you like this tournament at all, or what's your vibe on this?
Yeah, it has taken a little bit of getting used to and granted, we had a really big wrench in the equipment there with the COVID year where the schedule got all off whack, but it felt like we were starting to get into a cadence back to normal, and you kind of got a feel for, this kind of tournament is it's at this part of the calendar and it's right before a major, and here's the kind of people that show up to this golf tournament. Like, hey, I need to win to get into Augusta, or I just need to keep my tour card, or certain events drew certain crowds. And then now with the elevated events, and then even some of these spots where the week before an elevated event, you're seeing just all kinds of different types. Like even last week was a really good example. That's not the kind of field you saw in the Amex in previous years. Completely different. So that has taken some getting used to. And I've, I keep notes over the years. For every golf tournament, I have I don't know how big they let you get Google Docs, but that one's starting to get pretty big at this point. And I'm just running out of space on that. I'm going to have to start to make some notes on like how this has changed because of the elevated prices. And I mean, to anyone who plays one and done, obviously has noticed that. It's like, you can make a lot more money winning Riviera than you can any of the majors. It's a considerable amount of money, and we see a semi top heavy field here at another one of these goofy tournaments.
Yeah, I mean it's super top heavy with Jon Rahm sitting there at 11-6. I mean, this is like finally he's priced to the point where people won't necessarily click him that much, but I think it's still going to happen. I think it's inevitable, and I don't know. I saw DraftKings was giving like a 200-point surge bonus that you could turn Jon Rahm into like plus 650 if you ever wanted to do that from plus 450. But at 11-6, man, I don't know. Like, what are you vibing with Johnny Rahm here? Because it's just, if you click his name, all of a sudden you click on a bunch of other guys that have no business playing in this tournament kind of thing. It's really expensive.
Yeah, you're kind of hamstringing yourself. I think I saw a tweet saying it was 11.5 last year was the highest price we saw during, probably mid-spring, early summer there, where it was peak Scheffler. I think he got up to 11.5. So it's an obscene number, and it really hamstrings you at that point. You have to start really going and diving into, the 6K range and finding some guys who, you look at it, and if not every book hangs this, but you can go look at some of the sports betting odds and go look what the prices are on some of these guys to top 40, and then start extrapolating that out to how does that person end up in the top 65 in ties over the weekend. Yes. And you're really looking for like two guys to mash into a Rahm lineup that can find a cut line and just sneak inside there and maybe throw some streaks together on the North Course, I guess. I don't know. They're not going to be very good golfers, so it is awful tough to do anything with that sort of. But that said, I mean, it's the same problem you deal with every week if you're starting at the top and say I'm going Finau, I'm going Schauffele for 10-5, 10-3. Just not as much with those guys. It just exacerbates that to a point where you're not looking at 68, you're looking at 62. 66.
Yeah. And that's the problem, man. I had a Jon Rahm.
Name some names now. I mean, like Trevor Cohn, Michael Block. I know who Kyle Stanley is.
You don't want to play Kyle Stanley, buddy. That's for sure.
Ben Crane was in the Golf Boys video. That's a person I've heard of. So, I'm not going to build any around Rahm.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing because it's my thing now. I just get burnt by Jon Rahm every single time I get on a podcast, and I faded him last week, and turns out Ron had him in his lineup and cashed himself a casual $25,000. So shout out to Ron, my co-host, who's probably sitting on the couch now, busy cooking up another bunch of lineups, and he's going to retire. Before he comes back on the show, he's going to be a millionaire, and it's just not ever going to be a thing anymore. I think he's going to have left and just turned himself into the most eligible married man in the world just from the couch. So congrats, Ron. If you are watching, I'm sure you will be at some point. $25,000 takedown was very nice to see from you. So congrats on that one. But
and just every week that we have something good, I'm just going to keep running specials. So
yes.
Ron takedown equals $25 off. And normally last week we did the special until tee times started on the Amex on Thursday. But since it's an early week, I said, hell, just run it. And it's a smaller discount this week. So just run it. I'm just running it through the weekend. So full go on that. I mean, just check over at betsperts.com if you want to get all of Ron's DFS articles throughout the weekend, because he writes up not only his DFS article today for the tournament, but he does showdown lineup articles every day. Those also include what he's betting round by round, and also includes some stuff as far as here's some guys I might be looking at. If you're the kind of person who doesn't bet a lot of outrights and you like to add during the tournament, he always has some ideas during round 2 and 3 for some live ads, including Siwoo was one of those people in his articles a couple weeks ago when he did take the tournament down. He tipped him at 50-1, I think, during round 2. So always something to check out. And you can get all that stuff for a discounted price right now.
Yeah, so one of us will have to take something down for $50K this week, so we can give the people.
I know. I feel like I need something bigger here. So
yeah, it's up to us now, because I mean, Noonan took down Siwoo as well, I think, and Ron's took down the GPP.
And you know what my turn was? I had gone pretty heavy on Colin week 1.
At the champions.
I think I only clicked 3 names the whole week, and he was like my first one. And I mean, I had that money spent, guys. So a lot of pain, but I'll get it back in DFS this week, I guess.
Yes, let's do it. I'm totally down. Shall we jump in? So do you know who you kind of highlighting for kind of a player profile? Are you just going to kind of click names you like this week? What's your kind of strategy that you're kind of rolling out this week?
So I do think in that my DFS strategy, and I'm not super successful outside of some of the tournaments I've been able to take. Like I'm kind of a hit or miss guy where I'll hit it and get my balance way up and then piss it all away and then hit it a little more. So I'm a slow grower with my DFS, but I don't treat it as this is the kind of profile I'm looking for, because we mentioned, with let's even just say a Xander build or a Tony build, you're still going to need some 6K guys. My 6K guys cannot be the same profile as my core stats, my guys I'm looking for this week, because those are guys I'm looking for to peak a little. Like they need to peak to make the cut.
Yes.
So those, I have here's what I want out of my big guns. Here's how people who can win the tournament, people with really high ceilings, high floors. And then I kind of look at it a little differently when I'm looking at 6 and 7K guys to fill out lineups. And I mean, my general thoughts for, what I've done with outrights and kind of what I've done with, looking at my horses, my people I'm building stuff around is, a lot of the stuff you'll see in Ron's preview. I tended to agree with him a little more than I sometimes do this week. It is, it's guys who have distance and accuracy off the tee. And then, I mean, it's awful nice. Everyone likes it's a second shot course and iron play and long irons and greens and regulations, but the greens are just small. Even the best guys are going to need a little bit of assistance from their chipping, from their around the green. I mean, just general short game, and then, putting on this faster surface too. So just kind of looking for a skill set built around that. I have a lot of love for like Homa and Sungjae, and just even just the good iron guys are always going to pop on stuff like this, despite the greens being a little tougher to hit. It's you can't hit Zal and Morikawa, and honestly, I have some Matsuyama kind of love in a week like this, and then I have had a little trouble with the low price guys so far, but I've kind of got it figured out at the top and in the middle so far. I've just starting to look into my contest selection at this point now.
Cool. Yeah, there's an 18 entry max for $10 a pop, which I really like as a nice contest. If you want to get into that, it's a pretty nice and affordable if you just put in like 5 lineups or whatever, and just it pays out really good. You don't have to hit the nuts to get any return there. You can just finish inside the top 20 and still make a decent chunk. So that's just one suggestion I would put out there for you. But yeah, I did a Jon Rahm full lock at the Mexico Open, and I still ended up losing money. He won the tournament. I had him in all my lineups and just couldn't figure out the guys at the bottom. That's the thing. Like, if you're going with Jon Rahm this week, you're going to be dealing with that same problem again. And for me, I don't know. I think he's going to be really high owned, and God forbid he's won 2 tournaments in a row, Andy. I mean, what is the chances he wins a third, right? Like, that's like hardly ever been done in history. Like only like DJ, I think, was the last person to do that a few years ago. So it's a very difficult thing to do. He's going to a course that he's going to absolutely crush, obviously. But I think from a lineup construction point of view, if you want to go balanced, I think you're going to get different already. Like without having John in your lineup, I think you're good to go. So I like Colin. I think a lot of people that were on him or whatever, yourself included, might not necessarily be a big fan of him, but this week, because he doesn't have that distance and stuff. But it looks like his game's kind of turned the corner a little bit over the break. So especially if he's going to be one of the less popular guys, I really like him, and I'll add him in with Tony. I'm going with Tony instead of Rahm this week. I'm going to save myself $1,100. Like you said, I'll rather spend on a 6'9" guy versus a 6'2". And I mean, $1,100 is a lot of money between the 2 top golfers in the field, man. So Tony's played good golf at Torrey Pines many times. He's won also 3 tournaments in his last 10. So what do we like? Tony's on a roll right now, and I think he's going to bounce back. We saw him struggle at Mayakoba, and then he bounced back the next week and won it. And I think he had a bit of a tough time last week, not necessarily getting inside the top 10, but I think this course suits him. What you thinking, Tony's a good one?
Yeah, I'm always been a Tony guy. Obviously, it's a good course fit. I really out of the Finau, Schauffele, Morikawa, section, if you want to call it that, even putting in Zalatoris, maybe. I do kind of like Xander to save a couple $100 extra. I think I'll probably do some where I start with all 3 of those guys. But Xander, it's funny. The only thing the damn Twitter sphere is talking about is an injury to Patrick Mahomes. So it's funny that Xander was like, that was our golf injury. It was like, oh, I don't know. Like, is he hurt? Is he fine? It was one of those where, and Noonan brought up a good point about this morning. We said, like, well, he entered a tournament where he can't just eject on Friday and say, well, my back's not feeling good. I'm just going to go out there and, muscle out these last 18 and go home. Like, if you enter it, and you can always withdraw, but he signed up for a tournament where you play 3 before the cut. He had to be feeling pretty decent. It felt like a lead up to this one. So I think, if that's the sort of play you're going to get out of Xander, he's probably priced correctly in a lot of these markets, and maybe should be right there with Tony, if not above him. So I'm going to, anything I do, I think I'm going to do like 5 to 10 lineups, and it's going to be, if I do 10, it'll be 4 start with Tony, 4 start with Xander, 2 start with Colin, kind of thing for my top down build. And I just, Colin's distance, I know he's great with his irons, and we saw what he can do already this season, but I'm going to lean more towards the 2 spendier guys.
Cool. So I have a random question about Xander then. With a back injury coming into an event like this, he played at the American Express, which was a course that had like rough that looks like your front yard. Once it's mowed. Now goes to Torrey, back injury, and he's going to be having to heave out of that rough for 4 days. I'm just speculating, throwing a little bit of some thoughts out there, but a thick rough golf course requires a lot of aggression and force through impact to get the ball out of there. And if your back's a little niggly, you never know if it could flare up or not. So I'm kind of going to go with Colin and Tony in that respect, because I have to give myself a reason not to play a guy, right?
Yeah, it's fair play, because not only is that, the rough was just dead grass. It's like just dormant turf grass last week. And now you're going to the jungle. It's just rained and rained and rained. And I mean, unless they mow this daily, it's going to be pretty long. And, probably Friday and Sunday, you're going to see some nice tall rough, and it's going to be hard to hit through. Like you said, the speed, the strength you need to get through there. So that's fair play. Maybe I take one of those Xander lineups and turn it into a Morikawa or just more Finau. I think I agree with you. I'm in love with Finau, especially here.
Me too. I like he's like a miniature Rahm right now, and I don't think he's getting the love he deserves. So I think we'll take advantage of that a little bit and roll with him. All right. So if you're going to roll with a cheaper Colin and a Xander, then you're probably going to want to play someone in the 9K range, most likely. Who are you looking at? We got Max Homer sitting at the bottom, Hideki at the bottom here. And we got JT, who's going to be quite popular at $9,400. I don't think he's ever been that low price before. And then Willie Z rounds out the top there. So it's kind of a small range. A lot of good guys that you could actually almost even just start your lineup with here if you wanted to, if you really were interested in that kind of thing, and see how it goes. So I'm a big fan of Max Homer at this venue. California kid, the whole shebang there with the home course narrative, and he's just playing insanely good golf right now. I mean, he finished T3rd after losing like 2 strokes to the field in the first 2 days of the Tournament of Champions, and then finished T3. So just went nuclear on the weekend. So I'm all about Max Homer. Taylor Montgomery is also going to be a guy that's mega popular at this kind of venue, and just he's the next Cam Smith, man. He's just, once he gets his irons figured out, oh boy, I don't know if he ever will, but he's a definite DFS play for me. So I'm not sure if I'll play him as a winner ever, but I like him big time for this week. So yeah, walk me through your thoughts here in the 9K range.
Yeah, and that was the guy I was going to bring up, was Montgomery. I did a betting show this morning, talked to Noonan. We just said, hey, I mean, all the names we've already talked about, these big guns, these multiple time winners. The field is pretty tough. It's a tougher test here. He's great. I think he's going to win maybe more than once this year. If he enters some easier tournaments, he might just take out a bad field, because he's pretty good. I just need to see. I'm waiting on some numbers to come back I get some ownership numbers from someone, and that I trust a little better than, and if it's too high, I might have to lean away from this. But I just, my first thought, and I don't look at ownership numbers, I look at the ranges and see who else is around them and how popular and the fact that Thomas, Sung JM, Homa are right there next to him. I was hoping that would temper the Montgomery ownership. I don't know. How do you think this ownership comes in on him, as popular as he is, just like in everything, betting, golf? People are using him in one and done already. It's nuts.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I think he's going to be one of the more popular guys in this range. And it's because he's got all the stuff. He's got the distance off the tee, which I think people are big on. And he's putting lights out now and showing people that, but he's finished outside the top 20 once in like 14 or 15 starts, which is, if you want to bet a guy and have him in your player pool and he's top 20ing 90% of his starts, I mean, why, he's like an auto click essentially. So yeah, he's going to be heavily owned, but that's the thing, there's only like a handful of guys that can like contend at this golf course. And he's built like one of them, right? You can't have a short hitting guy out here that's in any of these ranges. So you really got to bank on guys and pick your spots to go. And I think you're right. I think he's going to do good.
And sometimes it turns to a spot where he's just, well, this is good chalk. And if you're able to, some people build their lineups based around, I'm going to find a median ownership projection that I think this guy comes in at, and I want all 6 of those ownerships to add up to here.
Yes.
So, in a Montgomery lineup, I'm going to try to be using guys in the 7K range that are lower owned relative to people around their price ranges to kind of temper that. Because like if I start a lineup, Tony, if it starts Tony Montgomery, I'm at a pretty high ownership rate.
The rest of those
are going to have to be pretty zigzaggy.
Yeah. Yeah, which is it's definitely doable. I think a lot of the ownership is going to levitate to the top here, where everyone feels comfortable, and then just take their chances with, guys at the bottom. Where I think you can really, if you do a balanced build and start maybe somewhere and just leave those top guys out and just get a whole bunch of good dudes that are sitting in that 10 to 15% ownership range, maybe, and sprinkle in a few guys that will get down to in the eights. But yeah, I think Willie Z is going to be obviously very popular. It's an interesting, he's going to go back to this venue again. I don't know if he's like 100% right now. I don't know, like we've seen 2 events and he hasn't necessarily been on fuego or anything, but going to a golf course he really likes. So who knows?
Yeah, if you liked him here last year, sorry. Like, I mean, he scored for you, but it should have been a little better. Hopefully we see some revenge. I did bet him to win this tournament this week.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, Max Homa and Willie Z, man. I just see cards with them all
Everyone
day.
has them, and I don't even care. Sal's revenge. So that would be nice. But yeah, he should be pretty popular here. And honestly, I think there's going to be a lot of builds that's just going to be like 2 popular guys for me that are, it's Finau and Sung JM and Finau and Taylor Montgomery, and then it's going to be a lot of and a lot of zigzagging towards the bottom for me, because it does kind of, it's not the most top heavy field ever, but there does seem to be a pretty hefty drop off.
Yeah.
As you can see, all the Ryan Palmer love says so for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But he's actually done some incredible stuff at this golf course, man. It's insane how well he plays at this venue, no matter what kind of form he's in entering the week. So,
and yeah, I did mention that to somebody I was chatting with earlier. I'm not a course history guy.
Yes,
course history is bullshit, guys. Almost always, but I do take it into account here. Like, I said here.
Augusta,
a Memorial a little, like if it's a tough ass course, or if it's like, hey, this is a course that sometimes gets played for a U.S. Open, it does trickle into the model a little. Like, how have you played here in the past? The tricky part of it is you're weighting that, and you have guys in there who've never played here before, so it does make it tough to do some comparisons. But I do have to give guys bumps who've played well here in the past, and I mean, it's just because of the nature of how this setup is and how tough this course can be.
Yeah, I'm the same with you there, Andy. I'm typically trying to stay away from course history. I think about a guy who's playing well at the moment is going to play well in the next week, but this course, man, it's shown that you can be hacking it around, like getting into this next range. Yeah, we've got Jason Day and Justin Rose, which are 2 absolute, and Keegan Bradley. Those 3 guys have got pedigrees around this golf course that are second to none in this range, right? And Jay Day he's pushing like 25% ownership in this range too, which is insane because he's playing good golf. He's finally healthy-ish, and as healthy as ever be, and going to a golf course that he's played his best golf at ever. So it's an absolute click there. I don't know who are you liking in this range here, because I'm a big Keegan Bradley guy.
Yeah, I think of the 3, it'll be more Keegan, because of just like, especially if you're playing in bigger tournaments, like Day is going to be highly owned at that price with what we saw last week and the course history here. And I think Rose starts to approach that too. So those are tough ones, especially if you've started out like me, where I've put myself in a bad spot already by having a bunch of high ownership already, and I'm already starting to flail a little at having the chalkiest damn lineup in the world. So I would have to pivot more towards Keegan, and boy, I wish Noonan were here for this. I'm gonna have to tell him about this. You just named like every golfer he loves here to do well, and he knows damn well too that they're gonna be highly owned. But yeah, just when you see this sort of stuff, and this is what makes like long-term form tricky. I talked about it this morning with Ryan, was guys like Day and Rose, that, or any time that somebody does something like this, when Spieth turned it around a little and started playing well, like when he won Texas the other year, and it's like, oh, he's like a full-on thing again. Like, people make changes to, sometimes it's not even a change you hear about. It's just they do something mentally, but equipment coaching, caddying changes, workout lifestyle, what have you.
Yeah.
And suddenly they turn the corner. It's like, well, how do I reckon with this guy's long-term form? Because he's not the same golfer he was 2 months ago. And the
Well,
same
that's what
thing
I'm
can
having
go,
with Jon Rahm.
same thing can go in reverse as far as like I mentioned Harris English, looking at his long-term form. It's like, well, he's playing with his hip was half ripped off and he came back too early. Like, I can't take those results into account. So and that's why Day and Rose are just so well loved at this point, because they're playing, at a level that we've seen in the past, and they have the pedigree, they have the name, and they have the history. And for that reason, I'm using them very lightly.
I would use Justin Rose. I think he's coming in, from what I'm seeing here, is like at half the ownership, sitting around 10%. Jason Day is
really? I was expecting 15 to 18. If he comes in at 10, if that's where he's at, that's lovely.
Yeah, and he's
especially as a pivot away from
$700 cheaper than Day. Yeah. So sign me up for some Justin Rose and Hayden Buckley as well. Another guy I'm definitely going to be clicking on. If you're looking for a guy that hits it far and straight, playing some good golf right now. Guy just finished T2, man. So sign me up for him. He's going to be in the fairway a lot, and he hits it really, really well off the tee. I love his game here. And he's one of the guys that I typically, my model's not a big fan of him because of the long run stuff. But if you're playing DFS, I'm totally okay picking one tournament and just kind of basing my entire pick off that guy. He played really well at the Sony. So I'm all about him. And Keegan and Adam Hadwin. There's a nice little chunk of guys right here in this bottom 8K range that I'm all about this week, especially if you can almost, like, these four dudes can all finish inside the top 20. Like, if you want to just leave Tony and Rahm alone and start with these four guys, you're sitting at the same ownership as Jon Rahm for four people, and they can collectively just try and get themselves into the top 20. It's a really random strategy. If you're going to throw like 20 lineups together, feel free to do something like that at some point. But it's just an interesting observation that I've noticed here. It's starting to look like ownership in this range is going to get real clumpy to certain people, which you can really zigzag nicely through this range here. So
yeah, and Hadwin's the guy I bet to win the tournament. I didn't bet very much on him, but I did not understand the price in betting or DFS for him.
What was his outright?
It was all over the board. Some like Bet Chris had a 60, but there were 90s and 95s in the market. So I said, well, it's going to be a small bet, but I did bet some Adam Hadwin, and he'll be in my player pool as well. He's just, he came in incredibly high in where I have stuff looked at this week. And then just like form, history, everything I took into account for like fit here. I didn't quite understand where he was at. And I would agree as well with Buckley. He was somebody that, again, when I was looking this morning for outright betting, I looked at him and said, I can't quite do that. Like Adam Hadwin
join the party.
Hayden Buckley was a bridge too far with Jon Rahm.
110 to 1, dude.
I know. I was close. I probably will be using him I will be using him in DFS. I'll be using him in matchup bets for sure, because if he's sitting in that price range where he's around, other guys that are similarly priced in DFS, and I haven't looked too close at matchups, but if I'm getting like, kind of a Hadwin over Pendrith or Hadwin over Harris English kind of matchup, I'm definitely going to take some looks at that. So I liked him, and kind of in the same price range, maybe even the same ilk. Wyndham Clark is going to make some lineups for Andy. And he's not the guy I mention a lot. I feel like I've been more of a Wyndham Clark fade over the years, but just a bomber. The accuracy could get him, but it's one of those things when you take a bomber that you're kind of putting your money in his hands and saying, just find a few more fairways than usual, or just don't end up in terrible positions. But decent swing season, kind of a decent summer, played well at some of the middling events, I suppose. And I guess he made the cut here. That's kind of what I'm looking for again. And maybe, if I get a top 30 out of him, I guess I'd be happy. But I think his ceiling's a little higher than that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just reading an article by Joseph Lasagna or whatever. I don't know his last name, how to explain it properly, but he does strokes gained analysis for professionals. Like, he'll individualize each guy's game, and he broke down Torrey and said, the strokes gained you lose for going 6 inches off the fairway versus 60 feet is basically the same. So if you just want to absolutely launch nukes, you're not really losing any additional strokes if you're missing the fairway by an inch or a mile. So that's kind of, a typical bomb and gouge approach coming from a guy that's literally giving these professional golfers this kind of advice. So Wyndham Clark at this kind of a golf course, absolutely, that makes a ton of sense. I like it. And I guess, that's why Luke listed well, yeah. And then all of a sudden putts well out of his mind the week he hits the ball really well too at a course like this. So I'm off Luke list. I won't be on him, but yeah.
No, and Wyndham Clark, decent scrambler. Like, let's say we do have some drives that go offline, but they're 25 yards, 30 yards further than other folks are hitting the ball, maybe more if they're shorter. But, and maybe you don't exactly find the green, but if the scrambling's fine there, I think I'm going to be fine with that. Yeah. This is, especially the South Course, like, just give me a bunch of pars, find a few birdies, score on the 5, stay out of trouble. Use your distance, and I think at 79 he'll be in the player pool. He is, for sure. I know this,
and he's it's your player pool. You decide who exactly goes in there. He's also pretty good on POA, man. So you got to love that about a guy that's in this range. I think he's 5th in my model for putting on POA over the last 50 years, 50 rounds. I have a question for you.
That's a hell of a
It's a long time, man.
God, what's he rank against Sam Snead?
So question, it looks like on Thursday, which will be round 2, it's going to be a lot windier. What is your opinion on how do you go about assessing having these 2 very different types of golf courses? You got the north, which is easy, and the south, which is hard, not even medium. It's very hard. Would you want to be on a difficult golf course or an easy golf course when the wind's blowing?
So I think that question really depends on what makes the course difficult. Okay. And what makes Torrey difficult? The length, the fact that it's going to be a little wet and it's going to play even longer, the small greens, the fast greens, despite the wetness. So I think, again, if you're accurate off the tee, or if you're able to hit your long irons accurately enough where you're not worried about clubbing down in a few spots, I think I'd rather play the tough course in the wind and then just bend the easy course over and just go to town. Like, just give me perfect weather. Let me go out there and score the shit out of the north course, take care of business. And I mean, we've seen that too. And trends are tricky, but a lot of the wins we've seen here in the last 10 years have started on the north course. I talked about that earlier today about maybe it's a psychological thing because golf is so psychological and it happens between your ears more than it happens between your hands and the ground. And, these guys that get off to a really good start, it sometimes maybe just gives them that confidence to go out and play well in the tougher course Thursday. And then also, I don't trust weathermen at all. Half the time we get this stuff and it's not even that nasty. And truthfully, like, I didn't see a really accurate maybe projection of if it's going to be way worse in the afternoon. Usually, winds kick up as it goes. Everybody's starting at a decent time because we have the split tee time. So it's not like there's a chance your guy is a Thursday tee time and he's starting at like 3 p.m. It's all early-ish tee time. Yes. So hopefully it's not too bad, but I don't know if there's a right answer to that. I think DFS people are going to obviously, you stack North Course guys, but it doesn't always work. You can't just go 6 North Coursers just for grins. You still need to pick good golfers.
Exactly. And I think it'll be interesting if you go with 6 South Course guys to start off with.
Your ownership will be you'll have I have 130% combined ownership. Good.
Yeah, exactly.
I got $3.33 with 900 other people.
Exactly. So if you do that, you got to get very different. And that's when you start clicking on names that don't have any business making the cut. So it's interesting. And like you said, if this course plays at 72 and you're missing a bunch of greens anyway, the windier it is, you're still going to be missing greens. You're still going to be trying to get up and down for pars, right? A par is a par. Whereas on the other course, it's going to be a little more difficult to get it close for birdies, which is it's something that I'm trying to grapple with too, because I can also see an easier course playing easier in tougher conditions. Like it's a 50-50 thing. So if you do both, I can see it happening. I totally can. So I'm glad you went with a different aspect there. I appreciate that. Ryan Palmer, $7,500. Guy's got course history through the roof. I think he doesn't look too popular. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people recognize, unless if you're just clicking his name without looking at any research, you're not going to realize the guy just is an absolute beast on that North course, and he's like right up there with Jon Rahm with scoring average on that golf course, which is nuts, dude. I'm a big fan of Nick Hardy, $7,400. He is my guy. He is one of the elite iron players in this field. Hits it pretty far off the tee too. So when he's going to be in the fairway hitting those approach shots from 200 yards, 175, this guy is just an absolute beast, man. And I'm kind of obsessed with him right now. Emiliano Grillo is another guy I typically roll with, but he's just, I don't know. I follow this injury report guy on Twitter, and he said Grillo, like that's a great follow. I wish I had known that before I put John Her in 30% of my lineups last week, but it is what it is. Will Gordon's another guy who's quite popular down here, has made a lot of cuts this year, hits it 1,000,000 miles as well. So he fits this golf course really nicely. So if you want to put Will Gordon in your lineup, you can't necessarily play a Tony Finau and a Max Homa to start off with, or maybe you can, like whatever you want to do. But he's an interesting player. I think he's going to be very popular, and that's why I kind of like a Nick Hardy kind of right underneath him there in the salary range. So yeah, is there anybody that you kind of in the mood for in the 7K range here that outside of Taylor Pendrith?
A little bit of Woodland.
Okay.
I mean, the Wyndham Woodland lineups are going to. I mean, just rewind what I said about Wyndham and then say it about Gary Woodland and then play that again, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same kind of thing. He does hit the ball quite far. It's a little bit of accuracy issues, but the course fit and where I have him, I think we're going to be fine. His ownership should be, I mean, it very much should be sub 10. More of an give me a bomber with low ownership kind of play.
Yeah, cool. And if you're looking for a guy like that as well, I think a little Trey Molinax is not a bad play either. He's got a very similar type of thing. Jacks it off the tee, putts nicely, blah, blah, blah. And then Dean Burmester, my South African boykie, I think he's a long hitter as well. And very tidy around.
Wasn't he carrying a little bit of an injury, or is he fine?
Yeah, he broke his toe over New Year's. Us South Africans, we go hard at the paint down there, and must have been doing a keg stand and kicked someone in the tooth or something, but broke the toe, went and played the Amex, finished just fine. Guy went on a bit of a heater early on, so he's definitely able to swing. I don't know how walking 4 rounds of golf, you kind of
if it's not your big toe, it's probably fine. Like if you break one of your smaller toes, like you break a big toe, you're gonna be walking funny for a while. Yeah. But if it's a smaller toe, and like you said, he appeared to be just fine. I almost clicked. I'm like, should I bet against this guy just because he has a broken toe? And I didn't. And then I went and looked at his score later that day. And I'm like, oh my god! Well, yeah, I saved whatever money I was going to bet on that because he kind of went nuts that day.
Yeah, and then falls down the board. I don't think he's very comfortable on American leaderboards right now. So it's kind of a dart. But who else you like him?
Get him back on the Sunshine Tour. Give him some confidence. Cheap. And truthfully, like, I mean, there's other guys in this range, but I mean, for like some fillers on my spendy high ownership lineups, like I said, that start with Rahm, Jesus Christ, Andy. Start with Tony and somebody else popular in that 9K range, like with the Woodland and Wyndham stuff. Like I said, hey, do you hit the ball 310 yards plus on average? Is your ownership going to be under 10? Yeah, you're in the pool, buddy. Like you're going in those lineups.
Yeah.
So
are you not a historically bad putter as well? Like signing up. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking
but even that's fine. Like actually you can get away with that. Willie Z, Luke List, 2 guys in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, Luke, it was the ultimate team can't putt playoff, but Cam Percy doesn't fit that, and he's a lot cheaper too, though. Like this is a guy where he's just played so well here. The 2 years he didn't play we had 20 and 21. It was like this is what you love out of like a 6K guy. Make the cut, finish like 30th or something. It'd be awful great if you had a little more upside, but just so good tee to green here. He is a decent enough ball striker, fairly accurate. And I mean, I'm trying to say nice things about a guy that's priced this far down, and that's maybe the extent of it. But Cam Percy is like my fill-in to get me a, if I want to go a little higher in the sevens on some of these spots, because he is cheap.
Yeah, he is. He's affordable, and you're gonna need them. I think even just starting with Tony, you need a 6K guy too. So love some Cam Percy. He plays good golf, Another guy that I'm eyeing out in this range is Kevin Streelman. He's got like sneaky good course history at this place, man. 6,800 bucks, 1% owned kind of thing. Love Kevin Streelman. Austin Smotherman is another guy. And then Austin Cook. He is one of these guys that Ron did the splits for the difficult courses, major like courses versus normal. And Austin Cook is one of the guys that actually plays better on more difficult golf courses. And his game is also been getting better compared to what that baseline is that Ron's using. So you can take those numbers and like shift the scale a little bit. And Austin Cook's right up there, 6,500 bucks. Nobody's going to play him. And then one more guy I want to mention is Ryan Brehm. I'm taking an absolute fly on him. Yeah, go take a peek at this guy's.
Oh, he was at the Tournament of Champions, Byron. That means he's a champion.
He is a champion, and
sort of.
He was playing just fine at the Tournament of Champions until he lost 9 strokes in one round. But he does like one random blow-up round, it seems, a tournament. But if you go and look at his stats since the Tournament of Champions, which is a very limited profile, but his game is completely different. He was like losing at least 1 stroke around like all the time. And now those last 12 or 14 rounds that you see there, strokes gained total, he's had 1 or 2 bad rounds, but the rest of his other rounds have all been like positive. He gained like 2.5 strokes on the trot for one period of time there. So he hits it a million miles as well. And he's super cheap too. I don't even know where he is on this thing. I was just going to mention him, but Ryan Brehm is a casual $6,300. So
yeah, I'm guessing he ain't 8. So you're going to get away.
Yeah.
He's in the William McGirt territory, guys. So
yeah,
it's that or Dirt McGirt at that point. And God, somebody brought up Cole Hammer. Don't play. I shouldn't say that because Cole Hammer is a bit of a streaky play. Man, you can throw him in at that price. This guy in the chat just bets Cole Hammer outright every week. So
Cole Hammer.
Yeah, when Cole Hammer hits,
the hammer.
Will Newman will make some money. Down again, maybe the last few couple cheap guys like you said. And I do like Streelman. Sneaky, not the longest off the tee, middle of the pack, but really accurate. Good drives gained, which is a measure of, like you said, it doesn't matter if it ends up in the absolute dead center of the fairway to the millimeter, or if it ends up behind 3 trees, 30 feet behind a tent. If you end up with a green in regulation from that shot, it counts as a good drive gain. So that's all, second or third shots that end up in, whether it's a 4 or 5 that end up on a green. And he is top 5 in the field for that, which speaks highly of, first off your accuracy, but then combining it with a decent enough iron game to score. And in this case, for somebody like Streelman, scoring equals pars. Yes. Because he is a $6,800 guy. You're not looking for him to probably win top 10 this tournament. He's just boy howdy, if you could give me 1 bogey free round, I'd be hats off to you. If you give me some birdie streaks or something nuts on the North Course, that'd be awesome as well. So Streelman, somebody I definitely like at that price range. And then Smotherman. Always just been a Smotherman guy. He's a guy. He's God. He's going to find my way into some cards. A little above average driving too, but he's just somebody that with form, he had a nice season. It was just a nice season without ever threatening, I guess.
Yes.
You know what his best finish was last year?
12th.
11th. You were close. And it was at the Farmers.
Oh, wow. So, okay. Yeah. There we go.
So this is his best tournament of the year. And he's awful cheap for a guy who he played well here. He played well at Pebble. He had some near top 20s in a few other places. He finished 25th like 4 different times. That's very odd to be right on that number, but
that is weird.
He's somebody as well I'm targeting in that range.
Cool. I also want to mention in that vein, Peter Malnati. If you're looking, and he taught me a little trick / whatever you want to call it. If you are trying to figure out who to play in the 6K range, lean on guys that have good course history. I don't know why. It seems like it works for him, especially in the lower ranges, because these guys are so hit and miss. If they have a course that suits them, that's typically where they play well. And Peter Malnati, not as consistent a course history as like Kevin Streelman, but the last 2 starts he's had have been sub 30. He's made the cut and finished, I think, like 17th or something. And he's played some good golf at this venue. So Peter Malnati is another guy, $6,300. If you're looking for an absolute salary saver there, Peter Malnati is the guy that I'm going to be playing a little bit. You can throw Ryan Brehm and Peter Malnati in there, the same go.
Yeah, and two, it's another thing. Like if you're looking at somebody in the 6K range that has good course history, it might just be the fact that they have course history at all. There's a bunch of these guys that just like, I've never played here because I'm new or I'm bad or I'm a middling guy that's up and down. So I mean, just if they have good course history, they've played here a few times, that really is something for a 6K guy.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that too. So that's kind of my vibe down here. I don't think I'm going to be playing too many dudes. I think going with the balance build this week is something I'm looking forward to. A little Aaron Badley action as well at 7K flat is another guys want to mention as I scroll up here. But yeah, that's about it from my side. I don't really have too much else to really give out there. I think we covered a lot of dudes, and it's going to be Cole Hammer week here per Will Newman. All the best there, brother. Hopefully it comes through for you. Someone needs to beat Jon Rahm this week, so why not Cole Hammer?
It's a lot funnier when Cole Hammer finishes dead last, to me, honestly, for Newman. So I'm fine with Cole Hammer having a bad day, but I won't probably have him in my builds. So.
No.
Now I actually have to it's gonna be late tonight too. And you know what the beauty of West Coast golf is? What is the earliest tee time tomorrow for I know, hey, everyone, we've
10?
all been reminded it does start a day early, but we're still at West Coast time. So the beauty of this is the earliest tee times are 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern.
Yeah.
So lock is not going to be before you wake up in the morning for most of you.
That is very nice.
So you have time. Not only you don't just have time to tinker. You have time to actually build entries in the morning if you want to. So if you don't get it tonight, you have a little time in the morning. Like I said, tee times don't start till noon Eastern. You have a few hours in the morning to goof around with it at work.
Yes. But make sure you don't hit that snooze, because I've done it many times where on Saturday I woke up and I entered the same lineup for 20 different lineups because I missed it by half an hour. The tee times jumped half an hour early on Saturday for some weird reason. But hey, that's my own fault. So it is what it is. So 25% off at Betsperts Golf, thanks to Ron taking down a GPP for $25K. Ron sitting on the couch just laughing at us for not playing any Jon Rahm this week. He's going to do it again most likely. But hey, Andy, I like our strategy this week. So
I think we'll be buying a boat to park next to Ron's boat on the lake this summer. That's what we do. We're Midwestern guys. That's what we do. We waste money on boats. So, yeah, good job again to Ron for cashing in with Rahm. Good job to him. $25 off a full year subscription, betspertsgolf.com. And Ron is very busy working on our newest tool. He is doing a ton of testing. He'll be back on the show eventually here once we get squared away and we end up a few weeks here, we're going to get into the meat of the golf season where people stop paying attention to football and really give golf the love it deserves.
Yeah, no, it's already started, since the new year. You can tell just by looking at likes and stuff on Twitter. But
God.
Yeah, it's a ghost town in the fall, man. It's brutal. So
yeah, the swing season will never be cool.
Yeah, it's rough. But that's that. So the Farmers Insurance Open this week. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Good luck. Let's take down another one, Andy. We gotta keep rolling, boy. So
yeah, that's what we do.
Let's do it. Awesome sauce. All right, guys. Catch you guys next week for Pebble, I think. So we out of here.
Sounds right.